Hey, Ann.
You can't do that. Are you going to do that?
Yes.
No, because you're an anonymous
You have
guest.
to say, hey, anonymous guest.
I'm going to say, okay.
You're still
okay.
Ann.
Okay.
Stupid. 1, 2, 3. Hey, Ange.
Hey, anonymous guest. How are you?
I'm doing well.
Good. Hi, folks. Welcome to another episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn. I'm Angella, and this podcast is usually starts with my bestie, Leslie, of almost 50 years. I'll say that we are two free-thinking Black women who have decided to bring more joy and boldness into our lives, and we encourage you to join us on our journey as well as starting or continuing your journey. However, today I'm joined by an anonymous guest, and what we're going to be talking about today is something that has been pretty, there's been a lot of buzz about it on social media platforms, including our dear friend, Stephanie Perry, who talks about narcissistic parents and going no contact. Her, I think it was a live that she did, was called Going No Contact with Narcissistic Mothers. And there's another one that she talked about and that my anonymous guest and I also just watched was Oprah explores the rising trend of going no contact with your family. And that is on the Oprah network. So my anonymous guest, I'm hoping that my bestie Leslie will show herself. Maybe she can join us. But for now, we have the anonymous guest because this topic is
Personal.
Ooh, it's personal. It's dicey. You know, as we talked about what we would talk about. I mean, when we watch these shows on YouTube, we were immediately struck. As a matter of fact, to be honest, we were talking about it before we saw these episodes on YouTube because of what's been going on. There's been a lot of family stuff, and it comes to a height typically around the holidays. Mm-hmm. And so we were talking about that. And then I was talking about it with my anonymous guest here. And then we found that there was this conversation going on social media, mm-hmm. and in particular YouTube. And
so I'll jump in right now.
Go ahead and jump in, please, anonymous guest. Can I call you AG?
Sure. My best friends call me G.
Okay, G. What
so
would you like to say?
The reason my voice is muffled and the reason my image is not displayed.
But the eyes are crooked.
Let me tell you how I did the eyes.
Okay, how'd you do it?
I just took it. I took it with my finger and I poked.
Oh my gosh!
On the right eye.
Let me tell you. Listen,
I went too hard. I jerked myself in the eye. I jerked myself in the eye.
Oh my gosh, Leslie, you're such an honorary Jamaican. You don't even
Leslie?
know. You mean
G?
G, my bad.
You've outed me.
You don't even realize that Jook is not. That Jook is not something that only Jamaicans use that term Jook in the way that.
Your anonymous guest was Jamaican.
Sorry. Listen, my mother would say, you take bad thing, make joke. This is a really serious topic, but so many times we have to bring humor into things as a way of bracing ourselves for the kind of emotional onslaught of these types of topics. And honestly, you know, some of the aspects of our experiences that we wanted to talk about were coming from Leslie, right? And her experience. But as I listened to some of these episodes, I realized that there was definitely stuff very, very, very different from Leslie's experience. But I experienced things on the other side, you know, as a parent. And so we're doing this with some apprehension. We're going to try to find that level of discussion where we can be honest, but we can also respect relationships and also, you know, like be where we are in it and not trying to be more evolved than we actually are in this moment. Right. So bear with us. We do have stuff that we want to share. Before we go any further, I want to ask people to please support our podcast by liking and subscribing and leaving some comments on your thoughts about what we have to share today.
Yep.
And so, do you want to start, Les? Or do you want to?
So I've had some discussions with Ange around how to effectively yet gently form boundaries in communication with family, loved ones, friends, partners, really the whole thing. And as we were talking about it, and some of my more recent experiences with that and the need for it, actually, that's when we came upon these videos that Ange just referenced, and we'll put them in the notes, that there are actually, I wouldn't call it a movement, but people are really talking about this concept of no contact. And what's surprising is there's no contact with their family members or no contact with their parents, and the discussions around why that happened and all. And I'll just say briefly, and I guess I'll expand on it a little bit more. I recently had this conversation with a close family member that I needed to limit my contact with them. At the time, I said, you know, there's just too much drama going on with you, and I needed to pull back. And what I learned over the months of really not having too much contact or speaking to them was that they were really offended and hurt and really could not understand what I meant by that, and minimized what I called the drama, but also couldn't understand my position. Now, let me just expand on, and you guys kind of know things about what's going on with me and my position, in that I've had a lot of the last year or two for me has been very difficult, stressful, emotionally taxing. I've gone through a separation and divorce. More recently, my son has been quite ill, and that's taking up a lot of my time and emotional bandwidth. And as a result, what I have found is that those situations and people that have that have exacerbated my stress and angst and anxiety, I've decided I need to step back and not speak to them. Because what I am is a natural problem solver. I take on people's issues. Am an empath. But as a result, I realized now I do not have as much to give, to pour out, to help. I don't have that. And as a result, because that was the role that I play in their lives for the most part, I couldn't play any role in their life. So that's really kind of where it came with the discussion.
And I think, Les, that the two things that kind of came front and center for me as you spoke is that one is that, you know, big ups to you for saying that, for asserting your needs and acknowledging kind of your boundaries, right? When I talk about boundaries, I don't mean how do you block people or what you expect from other people.
Mm-hmm.
Boundaries for me are, what are the boundaries that you set for yourself, right? If you say, the difference then is, don't call me for the next 6 months, or I'll only talk to you once a month for the next 6 months. So don't call me. The don't call me, that's on them. That's not a boundary. A boundary is, I'm not going to take your calls. So they can call you 50 million times. But have you kind of set that up for yourself to say, well, I'm only taking one of those every month, right?
Yeah.
So it's something around your behavior. And so I want to kind of acknowledge that you had you unfortunately came from your just, lack, like, I can't do this anymore. But nonetheless, you didn't ghost. You said, I can't do this right now. I have all of these things going on. I can't do this right now. Right. The other part of it is that the expectation is that you have the other person should say, I get it. Is there anything I can do to help?
That was my expectation. That wasn't what I received.
Right. Yeah.
And traditionally, these things become a little dicey because you feel some family. There are family obligations, not just that you feel it. I mean, you spend your whole life with family members, and you do have some obligation. What I think is new and I guess more progressive is that, I'll speak for me, but it extends to other people as well. I'm learning more to protect myself and put myself first. Right. And I know that saying, you got to put your seatbelt on or your mask on first before you help someone else. But as a physician, as a healer, as a mom, I'm always willing to make sacrifices and hurt in order to spare my loved ones from that hurt.
So, Les, a question about that, right? Did you find that it was only when you were in this lack, like, I just cannot, that you were able to say that? Or could you, not really have you, but could you reach this point without being in this depleted state?
No, I could not. Okay. Because I think I'm a super person.
Well, then I thank God. I thank God.
I think I'm an exceptional person in that, you know how we push ourselves more than we often ought. And I would have pushed myself more if I were emotionally able to accommodate someone else.
Right. Mm-hmm.
I do have difficulty saying no.
Yeah.
I much rather feel the hurt or the sequelae of putting myself second
Mm.
because I feel I can bear that, or
Okay.
I am more able to bear that.
Yeah.
I've spent many years enabling a former partner, and this is something I learned in therapy
Mm-hmm.
because I felt that in spite of the other person's, let's say, emotional immaturity or bad behavior or whatever, I was the better person, so I can take it.
Mm.
I'm
Mm-hmm.
stronger, so I
Mm.
can take it. So I don't need as much protection
Mm.
as that other person, perhaps.
Right.
And right
Right.
now, I'm really coming into this time or
Mm-hmm.
phase of not only seeking self protection, but I realize that I deserve that and
Mm.
it's my birthright.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
I
Right.
know it's what God wants for me to be also protected.
Yeah.
And I think, just to close the circle,
Mm-hmm.
why I'm so happy in my current love relationship,
Mm-hmm.
because I have someone who's very, very attentive to my emotional needs,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So I think perhaps knowing what that feels like, it was a little more obvious to see when I wasn't getting that and when I was being more depleted.
Right.
Hmm.
Right. Yeah. So what we're not going to do today is to kind of go through everything that Oprah and Stephanie Perry and their guest talked about. We're going to touch on a few things, but these conversations were really just a way for us to reflect, right?
Yeah,
For
yeah.
example, something that I was saying to Leslie in um, Dani. Les, did you write down her name, her
Mm-mm.
full name? I'm gonna pull it up. I have it right here.
Okay.
Stephanie's guest was her name is Dani Ellison, DaniEllison,
Mm-hmm.
and her platform is called Reparenting Coach for Black. She's a reparenting coach for Black women. We'll have links to this in
Mm-hmm.
our episode notes, but um, she her comments about the Oprah episode was that
Let me just
it
stop you for 1 second.
yeah, sure.
How about if you or I will just mention her position in general, Danny's position,
Well,
you know?
she had a lot of positions, but she is someone who um uh has um separated herself from, I think, her mother,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
who is, according to Dani, a narcissist. So guess what? I'm going to believe her.
Right.
Her mother's a narcissist, and through that experience, she is now a coach, very well credentialed, a lot of experience coaching in this realm. And if we hope that you take the time to listen to the
Mm-hmm.
episode. Again, it's called Going No Contact with Narcissistic Mothers on Stephanie Perry's podcast, Stephanie Perry's platform. But her position, Dani's position, I think what you mean, Leslie, in terms of the Oprah episode is that it was, it didn't spend enough time, or it kind of gave license to parental behavior, negative parental behavior, and may have been triggering for some children adult children who have experienced that. And what I said to Leslie is, I'm going to listen to the Oprah episode to get a full understanding, but I don't have a say in whether Dani was right or wrong. It hasn't been my experience. I haven't had a parent who was a narcissist. You know, I have a parent who was other things, but not. So I didn't grow up in that. And I'm not listening to what Oprah and her guests had to say in kind of, well, do I agree or disagree with what Dani had to say? That's not my job. That's not I don't even, because I don't have any of my own experience to say this is
valid or invalid.
Valid or invalid.
Yeah.
Basically, how dare I say that? It's almost like people, and you guys know that I often bring in race into these conversations, not because it's the same thing or so on, but I believe that race and the way that we experience racism in America, it gives us a lot of kind of common understanding of things. And so it helps us to kind of understand other things because of that. So what do I mean by that in this case? What I mean is that it's like someone who's never experienced racism looking at something that discusses race and has an opinion. You don't get an opinion. Your position here is to listen and learn. Yeah. It's not to have an opinion on something that you've never experienced. So I was very careful to listen, to learn maybe why Dani had this point of view versus deciding whether I agree or disagree.
Sure.
This was a listen thing, right?
Yeah. So what I was struck by, first of all, the whole concept, and it has this name, going no contact. And obviously it's an extreme behavior or decision that people, and it could be children could make that decision, parents can make that decision, friends can make that decision, siblings, and whatever. Right. So it takes an extreme example, but what Dani was saying in her case was that a person who has this mental illness, this condition of narcissism, will not change their aberrant behavior. And as a result, if we, as their children, continue to go back to them with an expectation of improvement, or that it'll get better, or it won't hurt as much this time, or now they'll center me instead of centering themselves. This is she wants to alert folks that this is a mental condition that will not change.
Right.
So we then have to change either our expectations or we protect ourselves.
Yeah.
And what I also said to you, Ange, is that this type of thing is a spectrum. It goes from no contact is on one side of it, and full access and whatever comes with that full access is on the other. But then there's different levels of either, we can call it estrangement or involvement or connection or whatever.
Right.
And while I never considered in my situations, and I've had quite a few situations of no contact, I don't need that level of finality, but I am able and more able to discern the timing for contact. I'm not ready to talk. I don't have that, and that type of thing.
So I heard you really mention two different spectrums, right? One of them is the level of contact, right? It's full contact or no contact and everything in between. And the other spectrum was levels of let's call it a thing, of mental illness, right? It could be 0 to narcissism, right? And so those are two different things. You could have full contact with a narcissist, 0 contact with a narcissist. You could have full contact with someone who is a wonderful person, but you've got your issues. Or they,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? So,
Yeah.
so it's two
Yeah.
different things. And the reason why I call those things out separately is because, um, you may be somewhere on one of those spectrums, right? You could have decided, like you did in this moment, that I'm going to limit my contact to this person, and maybe once a
Mm-hmm.
month, once every 2 months, I'll check in, type of thing, right? Um, I, I think there's some, should I say it, Les? Um, I think that in the situation that you have there is some narcissistic behaviors at play.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
We've known each other a long time, and you know,
Only 50 years.
we know the people. And but the other thing, and I'm pushing myself to talk about this, so I'm going to say it now before I pull it back.
Hold that thought for 1 minute.
Okay.
Um, in Dani Ellison's
Yes.
case, it's she speaks specifically about a narcissistic parent. But
Yes.
it could be any mental illness, not just
Okay.
narcissism. It could
Okay.
be, bipolar disorder or manic
Mm,
or severe depression or
true.
schizophrenia or whatever. People may
Mm-hmm.
pull away from folks for a
Right.
multitude of reasons or
Right.
non-diagnosed. These people just get on your fucking nerves every time you speak to them. You know what I mean? And we
Yeah.
all know
Yeah.
people like that,
Right.
don't answer
Right.
the phone right now.
Yeah.
I'm busy. They
Right.
sap your
Right.
energy. When
Yeah.
you hang up the phone and you feel like, oh my gosh, and it's like on and on and on. I have some coworkers like that. But but you know, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, go ahead. So you were gonna say?
So what I want to talk about is also the work that the that you have to do, right? In
Mm,
all of this, and kind of the other people and their behaviors. I want to kind of talk about the work that you personally might have to do, right? If
mm.
somebody is annoying you and you can't, I mean, some of that could be you, right? It's
Yeah.
it's not only the other
Oh
person.
yeah.
So what happened with me is, there was a point in my life where, someone that I was close to was going through a very difficult time, and they um, came out of contact with me.
Mm,
And it's someone that I love deeply,
yeah.
and it was one of the hardest things that I ever dealt with. Um, and remember, five things can exist at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
It was an opportunity for me to do reflection that was one of the greatest gifts that I ever experienced.
Wow.
And it continues. It has a real long tail. And
Mm,
some of what you hear me talking about, joy and living joy and setting joy boundaries and letting joy kind of dictate your life and hold you accountable and things like that, came out of that experience. It was a big part of what led me to therapy,
mm,
how I evolved as a person, how I just started loving myself and having a lot of self compassion, and putting things like guilt and shame and responsibility into their place. Right?
mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That you can be responsible for something and not have guilt about it. Imagine you can be responsible for something and not
Yeah.
have guilt about it. You don't have to give up the responsibility by giving up the guilt. You can be responsible. Yeah, I was responsible for that. Okay. And not have guilt. It's a process. It's a process. But
Mm,
that being on the other side of it was for me an opportunity for growth And by the grace of God, I took that opportunity. I was compelled to take that opportunity because this relationship meant so much to me. And one of the things that really helped me to stay in doing the work is that I wanted to be ready for when that person re-engaged. I didn't want to be the same. I didn't want to be the same. I wanted to be better at managing myself, my ego, not centering my pain. My pain is there, but knowing that other people experience pain too. And, you know, as the song goes, and it's probably biblical, everybody thinks their burden is the heaviest. Every man thinking that his burden is the heaviest, as Bob Marley would say it. We often think that our burdens are the heaviest, and they're okay. Yes. And what does that mean? Right? You can have a heavy burden and acknowledge someone else's heavy burden. It doesn't have to be a race to the top, a race to the worst, a race to the, do you know what I mean? Two people can experience heavy shit, and honoring yours does not mean dishonoring or minimizing theirs. And that's a lot of what I learned. And so being on the other side, being the person who was estranged from someone else, not and it was not initiated by me, led to something that I'm really proud of, something which is doing a lot of emotional work that became required of me because I wanted to be this better person. Wow. And I am. And so I can talk about it really boldly because I know I did the work, and the work continues. But had it not been for this thing that forced me into this really uncomfortable, you know, but here I am. And so it's not about avoiding, and there's work that you might have to do. Sometimes it's, you know, again, it's an and, right? Not just an or, but you may have to decide, yes, that estrangement is necessary, and do your own work, right? Around the role that you played. You may not have initiated, you may not have made the situation worse, but you may have been an enabler, for example. Right. And kind of looking at that enabling thing, because typically what happens is if you're that in that relationship, you're that in other relationships. Right. What did I say? You want to put the bag back on? No.
I beg your pardon.
I'm just saying. I
think we need to call in our anonymous guest again.
G, would you like to come back?
You know, what you were saying, I'll tell you, a number of years ago, it reminded me of a really painful part when Omari was estranged from me. And I did not initiate it. It was well over a year. He had no contact with me. And I do remember so vividly how painful that was for me. It was a little bit helpful trying to imagine that although we had always been close, for him to separate himself like that, he must have been suffering also.
Right.
But I think the thing that made it most difficult for me is that I didn't know why.
Right. And plus he was ill.
And he was ill at the time, which I'm sure complicated everything.
Absolutely.
But when you don't know why, unlike in your case, you had an idea of some of the mental processes and the problems that your person was going through. I had no idea. So I really was trying to do some emotional work on myself, but in a
Mm,
vacuum, in the absence of a
mm,
lot of information.
I
So I
see.
couldn't confirm whether or not I was in the right direction or whatever, you
Right. I
know.
understand. I
I just
understand.
knew, and I came to learn this a decade later or
Yeah.
so, is
Yeah.
that if the person has experienced something like this,
Mm,
it's a two-way street.
yeah.
You
Yeah.
know, it
Mm-hmm.
can't be all, oh, they're crazy and they're a burden and you just got
Right.
to pull. It's a
Yeah.
dynamic between the two of you.
Yeah, for sure. For
So I
sure.
love that you recognize that there was some alterations you
Yeah.
needed to make in
Yeah.
terms of therapy and
Yeah.
changing or whatever.
Yeah.
I came to that a little bit. It took me a little bit longer,
Mm-hmm.
I think,
Mm-hmm.
to make these changes.
Right. You know, I didn't have a choice, right? And um, in the last few weeks, this
Well,
has
you
come
say
up.
you didn't have a choice, but it's
Well,
like we always have choices.
well,
You
let,
could
well,
say,
no,
fuck it.
no, no,
They're,
no,
let them
no,
come back when they're ready.
no. I
That's
get
a
that.
narcissistic way to think about
There you
things.
go. I get that, but here's what the point that I'm making in saying it that way is because sometimes life puts you in a situation where you have to step up to go deep. You have to make really, really
Mm,
hard decisions that
mm,
on the outside it may look like, you're the worst person, or how could you do that, or whatever it is. But you come to realize that you have to thank God for it. Because had it not
mm.
been for that,
Oh, yeah. Oh,
that
yeah.
that like
That,
groaning
yeah.
pain, like
Nitty gritty, like,
just all
Lord,
the blood
take
comes
this
out of you.
burden
It
from me.
just, you
Yeah.
can't even speak. You just groan when you're
Mm,
praying. When you come to realize that that is that moment of desperation, I'm going to say it, of desperation, when you have to move out of that. Like, that's what I meant. The compelling for me was
yeah,
that
yeah. Mm-hmm.
I need to be better because my love for this person was so deep. I had to. I had to. I
Mm-hmm.
had to. What was the
Yeah.
alternative? Like, what? I had to do it.
And then too, you're also with your faith,
Yeah.
you know that when you do the work, he rewards you.
Yeah. Yeah.
When you do the work, his will is done,
Yeah.
you
And
know?
none of the surface stuff.
And
We're
oh
not
yeah,
doing
yeah.
that stuff at
Um
all. Not at all.
and this type of thing takes so much patience.
It does. Yeah.
It takes
Mm-hmm.
so much patience. And
Mm-hmm.
just in thinking about this topic, I know quite a few people who are estranged from their children. I
Mm-hmm.
believe it's the children that have stepped away, gone no contact with the parents. I know at least three women
Wow.
who have no contact with their
Wow.
children.
Yeah. I'm gonna
Yeah.
say that one of the things that I noted, I think this was in the Oprah conversation. They talked about different generational understandings of trauma and abuse and harm,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
Like back in the day, for example, when maybe spankings or treating your child a certain way was pretty common, right?
Mm-hmm.
Or imposing strict rules on your child so that they show up a certain way in society, right? So that you look good, you're making the family look bad or things like that, and putting a lot of that in one generation, it might have been very common, expected. In this
Yeah.
generation, it may be named as abuse and
Or
trauma
trauma
and
or what
so
have
on,
you.
right?
Whereas parents would say, wait a minute, I wish
Right.
I had the childhood that
Exactly.
you
Or,
had, or
oh, you're
whatever.
lucky. You only got spanked with my hand and not with a electrical cord, or just things like
Sure,
that,
sure.
where things that were common in the past are not common now. So that I thought was a really interesting way
I
of
do
kind of
too,
looking at this too.
but one thing that I've always been well aware of,
Mm-hmm.
and it's really important in this context, is that we can't negate the experience of the narrator.
Okay. Mm-hmm.
It's so common, like, I said I'm sorry. Or,
I
but
see.
you're doing okay now, aren't you?
Right.
Or these types of things. It's like, well,
Yeah.
I said I'm sorry and I
Right.
really didn't mean it.
Yeah.
Well, intent doesn't take away pain.
Somebody ran over your toe hurts. They didn't mean to do it,
It's
but
still broken.
it's still
It's still
broke.
broke.
That shit's broke.
So you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So it's not the perpetrator doesn't tell the victim when they've had enough or when they can come back.
Indeed.
It shouldn't hurt you so much.
No. Enough.
But
You had enough time. You had enough
but
time.
I'm your sister.
Yes.
But I'm your husband.
Right.
I'm your mother. I'm your father. You know what I mean? So you owe me a connection, even though it's painful for you.
Yeah.
Intentionally or not.
Yeah.
I'm not, there's no blame here.
Right.
I just need to know what I need to do to protect myself at a time when I'm emotionally vulnerable.
Right. There can
and what I loved about that was that every parent, any parent or friend or loved one should applaud your decision at self-protection, because you don't want them to be selfish and say, it would be nice, but I still want you to be with me, even if you're suffering. Like, who would want that?
Right.
It reminds me when I separated from my former spouse, I wished that he would find another partner that is suitable and makes him happy and lives out his days and cares for him in the way that he didn't get from me, or he didn't feel he could get. You know what I mean? It's like, if I'm not with you, that doesn't mean that I don't wish you well,
right?
Or I negate the difficulty that you say you had or what have you. No. We still have to validate each other's feelings. And if we love someone, if they say, I need some peace, I need a break, I need to move away, this is not working for me. It might be painful, but I think that we need to respect that if we care.
Yeah. I think so too.
Yeah.
I think it's saying something, to the other person. It's saying that you're honoring their decision. And
and I feel bad. It's hurtful that when I had the conversation with my person, they didn't understand my position. They couldn't understand why even the mess that my life has been lately. And it's been joyful too, but the messy parts of it, they still couldn't understand why I needed a break.
Right.
Yeah.
So a challenge is coming. So you mentioned before, when in contrast between what happened with me, what happened with you, you said that, but I knew, what
Yeah,
this
you had
situation
some
was,
idea.
and you didn't know. My question is, um, for you or those out there who are um, wanting to or are estranged from a loved one, whether
Mm-hmm.
they know, did you just cut off? Did you tell them?
Mm.
Do they know what they did so that they can go do the work?
Mm.
Or have you just cut them off and feel so that you don't, and it, no judgment, because it could be that you have no emotional bandwidth to do that, right?
Yeah.
But that is a question.
Let me tell you what
Have you
I
told
think.
them? Have
Let
you
me tell
told them
you what I
why?
think.
Okay, go.
What I honestly think what happens most often
Mm-hmm.
is that person is telling us often and we're not
Okay.
listening.
Say more.
What I mean is, I think in Omari's case,
Yeah.
he likely was saying many things
Mm. Mm-hmm.
if I were able to hear him.
Yes.
But very often we don't hear
Yes.
people because we have a certain dynamic.
Yes.
So the dynamic is I tell him what to do,
Yes.
even though he's a grown up living on
Yes.
his own.
Yes.
And his role is to listen and obey.
Yeah.
And perhaps when he no longer wanted to do that, that's when he
Mm-hmm.
knew that I wouldn't understand. In other
Mm-hmm.
words, we need to give the other person space to talk.
Yeah.
We need to make
Yeah.
it not easy, but we need to be approachable
Right.
and
Mm.
let that, it just reminds me of a situation again in my previous relationship where I would complain about a certain thing. You never tell me this, you never tell me this. And then what I really thought about is like, well, do I make it safe for him to tell me that?
Mm.
When he has told me this, what is my
Right.
reaction?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know?
Mm-hmm.
So am I really asking for
Right.
disclosure? Am I
Right.
making it safe for this level of
Right.
disclosure? And
And
these are
and
difficult conversations.
and that reaction could be that you start crying. That is not creating a safe place for conversation. That's something I
What?
learned.
You
That's
don't
something
want to
I
talk to
learned. What? What do you mean? Yeah. What did I do? I didn't mean to do
I
this.
didn't mean, oh, please, oh,
That
please.
is not a
Yeah,
safe place.
what made you bring that up when I was talking? I didn't
No,
do that shit.
no,
Hey, did I do that? No.
did I do that?
Yeah, yeah,
That
yeah.
was definitely me. Some stuff that I had to grow my ass out of. Like, that is not making it about you.
Yes.
No,
This hurts
no.
me so
This
much.
was
Don't do
so,
this to
I
me.
didn't mean to do that to you. What? That
You
is not
know, so
safety.
listen, remember when I told you about, I won't mention his name, but
Mm-hmm.
that he is estranged from his sister?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And what I kept saying to him is, why don't you be the bigger person and you make up? Why don't you be the bigger person?
Right, right.
And he has had no contact with this person for a number of years now. But I kept saying, such a nice guy,
Mm-hmm.
and this, and you be the bigger person. And you pointed out to me that by telling him and advising him to do that, you are negating his feelings and
Mm-hmm.
disrespecting his emotions
Right,
and his emotional trauma from the hurt and the
right.
relationship. He too
Exactly.
was hurt.
Yeah.
So why should his hurt be minimized and he
Right.
should make up to someone who
By
hurt
being
him?
the bigger man.
And
Mm-hmm.
likely he knows who this person is
Yeah.
and he would make himself more vulnerable again.
Exactly. 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 Yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, Les,
It's a lot of learning.
I'm so glad you took off. I'm so glad that my
Anonymous
anonymous
guest.
guest went away and you joined us.
Because you outed me.
didn't mean to. I didn't.
She's
I
like,
didn't
and
practice.
Les here.
I didn't practice enough.
We rehearsed this.
Listen. Leslie, if you haven't noticed, Leslie is one of the funniest people that I know. It can be any conversation like this one, and Leslie can have me on the floor laughing. Imagine we come on, we start recording, I put on camera, and I see this bagged.
But initially the bag didn't have eye
hilarious.
holes.
It didn't have eyes.
First of all, without the eye holes, I said to myself, I don't know where to look. Like, what difference did that make? And then I poked the holes where I thought my eye was, and on this side I poked myself in the eye. I had to push the cardboard was a little stiff.
It was a little cardstocky. Oh my gosh. Anyway, humor aside,
though, right?
Really, really interesting stuff. Thanks for saying yes to engaging in this conversation. I know that your stuff is a little more present than mine right now, but we all go through it, right? We all go through it, and so we will put links to the 2 YouTube videos that we mentioned.
So interesting. And tell us what you think about this. This is like, is it selfish? Is it self-protective? Is it,
Yeah. What are you doing if you're on either side of this? What are you doing? What are some of the things? And whether any of our story resonated for you, we'd love to hear from you. And until then, this has been, go ahead, Les.
Episode of Black Boomer Besties from Brooklyn.
Brooklyn.